welcome back to another episode of Professional Spotlight. Jesse Bayer, Abundant Living Ecuador. I'm here with Kevin Roden. Kevin is a Lojano. Kevin is in the coffee business, which is really interesting, and he also does tours. He's done tours now for a number of years in Loja, knows a lot about Loja, spent most of his life, if not all of his life, we'll find out, here in the city, and has interacted with lots of foreigners over the years, helped them with various things, worked with them in all sorts of ways, so has sort of seen life a little bit from the foreign perspective, from the expat perspective here in Loja. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Jesse, to you for inviting me to this podcast or video.
Yeah.
I don't know how do you call it.
Perfect.
It's nice to be here with you.
Awesome. So we've got Loja behind us, as you guys can see. That's the city right behind us. It is threatening rain. We'll see if we get this in. But this is Loja, right? You get the blue skies over there. You got rain clouds over there. It changes all the time. We've got ice cream trucks rolling through. So you're getting the sights and sounds of Loja today. So Kevin, let's talk a little bit about who you are first and your experiences. So first of all, are you originally from Loja?
Yeah, sure. I was born here. I've been living my whole life here. Actually, I think 29 years living here. So I like to say that I am very, very Lojano as the coffee here, because everyone drinks a lot of coffee here. That's what I like to say. So I work like as a national tour guide. I got my license I think 2 years ago, because you need a license to work like a tour guide.
Okay.
So I got it 2 years ago, and I've been working in this business about 5 years. So it's good to show people the city, and that's why I decided to become a tour guide.
So we'll jump into the tours in a second, but just jumping back to the stuff on Loja, what makes Loja unique to you compared to the rest of the country?
For me, as a Lojano, I think that the most unique here is that you can walk easily every place. It's very safe. You will never feel threatened. If you go to the streets at night, at midnight even, you can go easily to different places and you don't find nothing that can damage you or something like that. So it's very, very safe and very secure.
Yeah, no, that's true. Okay, so let's jump into the tours then for a moment. So what kind of tours do you do? How long have you been doing it? What's that all about?
Sure. Okay. I have many different options because, as you know, there are many different of tourists or visitors. So I need to offer different things. For example, I got coffee urban tours, coffee farm tours. I had the historical tours to get to know how Loja works. Bike tours for people who like sports, for example. Mural tours, which is a mix of art and street tours that you can go to visit the different murals around the city, because we have a lot of good artists here, so I like to show that too. And I also offer tours to different valleys around the city, like Vilcabamba, Saguro, Malacatos, and Zamora, which is the closest Amazon region we have here in Loja.
Yeah. So Loja is a province that's become really internationally renowned for their coffee. You do coffee tours. I know you're also in the coffee business.
Sure.
Talk to me a little bit about the coffee in the Loja region.
Okay, this is a topic I really love, coffee, because like I told you, I drink a lot of coffee, my family drinks a lot of coffee. And if you go here to any house in any neighborhood, you will find people that they have big pots of coffee there. There are many traditional ways to prepare the coffee, and that's how it started, because Loja is the first province in Ecuador that started growing coffee.
Oh, really?
And it was in 1800s.
Okay.
That we already were producing coffee here, because we are in the border limit with Peru. So it was very easy to bring coffee, because the Peruvians, they were producing coffee. So we started in that time, and it becomes like a tradition for us. And currently it's very famous, let's say, our coffee, because we every year Lojano coffee is winning awards. They are going to different countries. The producers and the farmers here are taking the coffee to abroad. So that's very important for us, and it's giving Loja a very, very prestigious name of the coffee. So you can find, like we call, for example, classic coffee, which is the coffee that you can find on every store in the city, and the specialty coffee that you can find only in specialty coffee shops. So there are differences between that coffees, but you will find, depending on how do you like the coffee, if you like it sweety, you like it fruity, if you like it strong, black, and different kinds of coffee. So it's like a tradition for us. Every year it's increasing the production of the coffee, and they are trying to work in the specialty business coffee.
Yeah, no, interesting. And coffee here, it seems like you can produce world-class coffee at lots of different altitudes. Is that accurate?
Sure. It's important that you said that because, for example, here there is a legend that tells us that all what we see here behind us was a huge lake thousands of years ago. So when the lake disappeared, all the minerals and the proteins stayed underground, and that's why every place here if you try to start growing something, then you can harvest it. So it's very easy
fertile.
It's a very fertile soil. So it's important that you said, because you can be here in, I don't know, 2,000 meters over sea level, that you go to Malacatos and it will be lower, you go to Vilcabamba, and are hot places, there are cold places, and it doesn't matter because the coffee adapts to the soil, and it's very important because you can produce coffee every single place around all the province of Loja.
And you were telling me that some of the producers here are getting quite a price per pound for some of the high quality stuff.
Yes, exactly. For example, we have in Ecuador 2 different contests to get to choose the best coffee of Ecuador. The most known, which is a national contest, is the Taza Dorada, and every year Loja is in the top 3 or top 5, and they are getting new prices, high prices to go to take the coffee, to export the coffee. And the last one in 2021, which is a friend that is a producer from Sosoranga, they sold the coffee in $70 a pound. But last year there was another international contest, which is called Taza de Excelencia, and the winners, they were from Saguro, and they sold it in 100 a pound. So it's like people are appreciating our coffee, and they are paying what they think is fair to the producers.
I don't know if you have this information or not, but do those prices compare to some of the top producers in Colombia, or which market is considered sort of higher quality at this point? Do you know?
Yes, I have some information that the most expensive coffee is located in Salvador, in Nicaragua, these Central American countries.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly what's the price, but they are the most expensive you can find. Colombia also, and Brazil too.
Yeah.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, I've seen even there's some African countries now producing really, really high quality coffee as well. Yeah, you mentioned some of the things earlier, that makes Loja such a nice city. So I lived in Loja for about 5 years or so. I prefer the country at this point in my life, so I'm out rural now. But for a city, I don't think there's a better city, you can live in, certainly in Ecuador, maybe anywhere in the world. As you said, it's very safe. It has a very moderate climate. It can get a little windy from time to time. It can get a little cool from time to time, but it's never going to get cold. And the culture here is just, it's a city that operates like a small town. People are very friendly. Everybody knows each other. It's a very trusting culture. There's lots of arts. There's lots of music. You're mentioning the coffee culture, and you're surrounded by mountains, everywhere. Obviously, you guys can see it's really beautiful. It's really picturesque, the valley with the mountains above it. So You're doing. It sounds like you're doing some tours that have to do with some of the nature stuff around Loja. Talk a little bit about some of those tours, or some of the sort of nature expeditions or options that people have available to them in this area.
Yes, it's good to talk about that because we have a like a strategic location because we are very close to the Amazon region. We are very close to the borders with Peru, so that's why Loja has different microclimates. We like to say that because it can change, but it's also good because we have a lot of mountains. You can go to a waterfall located about 1 hour from the downtown, for example, and you cannot get tired because it's an easy hike. You can go to visit the mountains, you can go to do hikings for about 2-3 hours, and it's very, very close, everything. The only thing that you need is maybe sport clothes, and maybe take your sun protection, and that's all, because it's very easy to go. Because we have to do a comparison with Quito, for example. Then you have uphills, you have to walk a lot, you have to need like a strategy for breathing because the altitude is very difficult for some people. But here it's like the exact weather for me, like the exact altitude for everyone who comes here, and it's very easy to go. So you can go, for example, I don't know, you can see there the Villonaco Hill, which is the hill which is dividing this valley, because we are a valley, Loja and Catamayo. And you can go there, and there is a coffee shop over there that you will have an amazing view, and it's very easy to go there. So you can go and reach every place. I like to say when visitors come here and say, I want to go to this mountain, and I say, we can go, because every single mountain you see around Loja, you can go to there.
There's trails and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, and then there's the national park right here as well.
Ah, sure. We have which is the second largest national park in Ecuador.
In Ecuador.
Yes.
What's the biggest?
Yasuni.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's in the Amazon.
Yes, it's deep Amazon, where you can find maybe like tribus, do you know?
Tribes, yeah.
Tribes.
Sure,
yes.
indigenous tribes.
Indigenous tribes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, so Loja, the valley, is about 6,500 feet in elevation. We're probably right now about 7,400, I would guess, something like that. You know, Kevin was mentioning Quito, and he didn't mention Cuenca, but both of those cities are significantly higher in elevation, therefore much colder. And I don't think people realize how cold Quito and Cuenca can be.
Yes.
Loja never gets super cold. Okay. Very cool. So then talk a little bit about some of those other areas. You said you do some stuff sort of in some of the other valleys and some of the other areas around.
Yeah, sure. I'd like to talk about Vilcabamba because it's a very known village. If we go there with visitors, we are going to visit for example, a coffee farm where you can see all the coffee production. You can taste the coffee, you can talk with the farmers, you can ask everything about coffee. We also visit craft beer companies, because in Vilcabamba there are many craft beer companies. You can visit farmers which works and produce sugar cane, so it's very nice to go there and to get closer with the farmers. And also go to the mountains there, because here also we have mountains like the Mandango Hill, which is a historical mountain in Vilcabamba, and they have many legends and stories behind it. So this is a good place to visit. You have the river that gets you like energy, because you take a bath in the river, and people says that you are going to get younger. So
right.
That's why they say people live a lot of years in that place.
In Walkability, yeah.
So also we can go just 1 hour and 30 minutes from here to Saguro. Saguro is the only town we have in the south region, which the indigenous people, they remain with the pure race. They still wearing the original clothes. They still sometimes building their houses with mud, with this technique which is called bareque or tapia. I don't know which.
It's like a rammed earth
Yes.
Style of construction.
You mixed only mud with straw, and you create the bricks to make the walls.
It works very well. I mean, they last forever. They last a very long time.
They still building their houses in that way.
Yeah.
So you can visit there in Saguro. You can go and live with the communities. You can go and live with the indigenous people. They can take you to different places. You can go and visit how they produce the pottery, for example, how they produce cheese, because they're very known because they produce very high quality cheese. So it's another important and great place to visit. And Zamora, like I told you, we are very, very close to the Amazon region. So there you can go also to the Podocarpus National Park, and then you can visit waterfalls, the rivers, bird watching. You can see animals and different flowers and plants, which is a very, very green area that you can see there. Yes, so that's are the places that are very around the city that you can go easily to visit.
Yeah, I noticed I have a piece of land over in Hipiro Alto that borders the sort of the protected forest. And one of the things I've noticed there, right, so we're up here high, right, we're up 6,500, 7,000 feet, and there, even though we're in the Sierra, like the mountains, and normally you would get the wildlife of the mountains, because, as you mentioned, the area is connected to so many other different regions. That area, because it's east, is connected to the Amazon region, and there's monkeys and there's parrots and all that kind of things in Loja, or, right in the valley, because they come over, I guess, through the forest, and I've seen, a number of times I've seen those kinds of animals in Loja at 6,500, 7,000 feet. It's kind of remarkable. I wanted to ask you a little bit about, what's it like, do you think? I mean, you've done a lot of tours with foreigners, locals also, of course, but you've done a lot of tours with foreigners. This is an English-speaking channel, so you've done a lot of tours with foreigners over the years. I mean, I've known Kevin probably, 5, 6, 7 years now, going back to when we had our offices here in Loja, and he's always, the tours are great. Anyone who I ever sent on the tour, I've recommended the tour, or lots of people have recommended to me as well, have said, the tours are really great. So you've done a lot of interacting with foreigners. You've probably interacted with quite a few who live here, people who are considering living here. What would you say it's like to be an expat, a foreigner, living in this area, living in Loja or in the region?
Sure, it's good to talk about this, because when foreigners are looking for different places around Ecuador, different regions, different weathers and everything, there is something that why they choose this place, and something is that they say that it's not an expensive city,
right?
Because it's very cheap. If you go to the markets, you can find, a lunch for $2, and it will be full rice and soup and everything.
Yep.
So people like that, because you go to the you go to the markets, you can also get closer with the people who sells all the fruits and the vegetables and everything. So that's also something people like, because you can move from one market to another market in 15 minutes maybe. So it's very easy to people to go there. Also, what people says and what people really love about Loja, being an expat, is that they say Loja is a very walkable city. You can walk everywhere, you can bike everywhere, and it's very easy to find the things that you are looking for about for your food or for your house, your decoration, for example. So they like it. They also like the weather. Like I always say that they love the coffee. Because some people from Europe, they really know about the coffee culture, and come here and they say, The first thing where I Google Loja, Ecuador, is coffee. So they come here and they go in front of the Central Park or in front of the Independence Square, and they find a specialty coffee shop, which is very, very interesting to know. You can go there, you can talk with the baristas, and they will say, this is the coffee that maybe you would like because it's very sweety, or this is different, this is strong. It's not something that you can find in big cities, for example, because it's very crowded, it's very, I don't know, many people there. So here you can get closer with the people. And also what people really likes is the music. The music culture we have here. For example, you can go to the church, and if you are not a Catholic one, you can go to the church, but you will find there the symphonic orchestra playing there.
Yeah.
So you can go to
great too.
You can
They're
go
amazing.
to the theaters. You can find also every week that you will find people there playing some music, or many of the events that you will find at the theaters are for free too.
Yeah.
And there it's very, very good because we have a good reputation about music. So I think it's a mix of everything that why expats loves living here and why they decided to stay living here.
Yeah. It's a very, there's a lot of history here too, right? It's a very rich history in Loja. It's interesting because, for example, where I'm from in the U.S., families generally are pretty scattered, right? They might live all over the country, see each other a few times a year. Here, it's only maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but maybe it's only in the last 15 or 20 years that people have really started to go away a lot, right? And so you still have sort of those deep roots, those deep connections, those familial relationships where families go back many, many, many generations, sort of knowing each other and having relationships. And I've noticed that sort of plays out throughout the culture where, if you had a city of this size in the U.S., it wouldn't be like this at all. There would be some issues with crime probably. There would be, traffic, more traffic than there is here. There would be much more distrust, a faster pace. People would be probably less kind and less sort of trusting. Here you have this sort of interesting culture, and I think it kind of ties into some of the history maybe of Loja and of the sort of arts and culture and there's some of that history. I don't know, can you talk a little bit about maybe the history of Loja and sort of maybe how that played, or the culture / history of Loja, anything you want to comment there?
Yeah, sure. It's very interesting that what you were saying about the roots, because here Loja, it's a very small city, and before it was smaller.
Sure.
Because there were only, I don't know, 15,000 people living here.
How long ago was that, do you know?
It was about 1957. There were only about that.
And there's probably now
people
about 250,000 or maybe even 300,000 now.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it was, the name of Loja in history was Campiña Lojana.
Okay.
Which is...
Oh, I've seen that. I never knew what that was. Yeah.
Which is a word that means a very small place where everybody knows everyone and everyone's are like family. So if we talk about deep history of Loja, there were only about five families which were the owners of all the city.
That's sort of like Valdivieso and those kinds of names, yeah.
Valdivieso, Eguiguren, Burneo.
Right.
But it was because they were connected to the religion or to the
Catholic Church,
to the religious orders.
Ah, okay.
So when some religious orders left the city, because they always were moving all around Ecuador, they leave all their lands, their houses to these families because they were their friends.
Ah, okay.
And that's why many of these families, until now, they have a lot of houses and a lot of
property all over.
Yes, but also in Loja, like we are in the border limit, there were a lot of cultures that came here. For example, I don't know if have you ever listened about that we have a Jewish culture in Loja,
I didn't know that.
which is even in most of our surnames we have always these roots from the Jewish people.
Oh, really?
But they were Jewish from the south of Spain and the south of Portugal, which they were escaping from the Inquisition.
Oh.
And that's why they arrived to South America at first for Argentina and Chile, but they keep escaping, and they arrived to Ecuador and Peru. So they came here and they looked for a small village like Cariamanga, I can say Pindal, Alamor, which if you go there now, you will find people with blonde hair, you will find people with blue eyes, for example, and you will ask them why they are like that, because they don't know. But if you go, make a research, for example, you will find that in the books of our history, everything is written there. It says that that people were living here, and they have to change their names to not to be discovered.
Oh, okay.
So that's why we have names like Puertas,
Yeah.
like Castillo, like Palacios, which they came from the Jewish
These are very
roots.
common names here.
Yes. So, like you told me, and like you said, you are correct. We have the roots, a big presence, can I say, of our roots here, because most of people stayed living here forever. They still creating the generations and everything. And until now, you can find that in most of the families.
Yeah.
You will talk there, and they will tell you that.
There's a great pride I noticed too, for Lojanos and Lojana culture. You know, it's something they say, like, what do they say, Lojano del corazón or something. You know, they say, when they talk about there's another expression I forget where, you know, it's like the Lojano leaves and lives somewhere else, but then they always come back. And I've noticed, you know, I think people in general in Ecuador have pride in where they're from, but I think I've noticed in Loja there's an additional sort of layer of that, where people really take pride in ser to ser bien educado, right? Like to be like polite, and where they're from, and the fact that they, you know, they treat people a certain way, and they, you know, there's a sort of a formality to the culture, and a great pride, I think, in sort of Lojanos, where they're from, their area, the fact that it's really safe, the fact that they take care of it. You know, they treat people really well, they treat foreigners really well. There seems to be sort of a pride taken in some of that stuff. Do you have any comments on that?
Yes, and also I have to say something more, is that we are very
Prideful, yeah, or have a lot of pride. Yeah, you're good.
we really like to say that we love our way to speak, because people say that here in Loja we speak the best
Castellano,
Spanish,
yeah.
the best Castellano.
Yeah.
Because, and sometimes I read in a book that it says that we have this non-accent, because, for example, if you go to Cuenca, if you go to Quito, to the coast, you will find that it's a very, very different accent from Loja. And once I read in a book that we have that non-accent because of the mixture of cultures, because many people, like we are in the border, came here, many different cultures, and that created, like, we don't have any accents, and we have like a very pure Spanish or pure Castellano. So you're right. If you go any place, the Lojanos will say, yes, I love to say that I am from Loja. I love to say that I live in the music and cultural capital of Ecuador. I like to say that I live in one of the safest, if it's not the safer city in Ecuador. And it's because of history, from the beginning of the foundation of the city, even before, all the people here were like a family. So they always go, they travel abroad, and they always are missing like their place, and they are missing their food, their families, their friends, that you can go to every corner and you can say hi to everyone, because everyone knows everyone's. And that's something that gives you like melancholy, I don't know.
Melancholy, yeah.
Yes, sure. So I think that's the reason. and I think that's why people love the city, and we like Lojanos, we love our city and our region too.
You mentioned, the arts and culture, or arts and music. It's known as sort of the arts and culture, arts and music capital of Ecuador. Well, talk to me about where that came from. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. It's something very important because one of the most one of the greatest tours I offer here is for visiting the historical part of the city, the downtown. So when we start the tour, we start in a square which is called San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
This San Francisco square, it has the first convent in the city. You can see there the convent. You can see, if you go inside, you will see the original courtyards. You see the original doors and balconies and everything. And the thing is that that convent, it was also the first conservatory of the city. So only 6 years after the foundation of the city, which it was in 1546, they created that convent and they created that conservatory. So from the beginning, there was a place for people to go in there to study arts, to study music, to learn how to play different instruments, learn how to read, for example. Mm-hmm. So it was like a very, very cultural place and a very important place because it was free, totally free for everyone who wants to go there. So everything started there because you can imagine a very small place with a conservatory. It was like something wow for the people. They started learning that. They started learning how to play the instruments. They created like the different music bands, the different groups, and it started growing and growing every year. So until now, it's important because in Loja, it's an important fact that we have two different orchestras. One which is part of the government, we can say, and the other one which is a private one. So there are only 3 or 4 cities in all Ecuador that they have two different orchestras. In Loja, even it's a small city, we have two different orchestras that they are always playing. We have the conservatories now, and also if you go to the school, from the first grading school, they will teach you music. There is a specific class which is called music.
Yeah, and that's more or less only in Loja, or is that the whole country?
I think it's only in Loja, probably some places in the southern region, mm-hmm. but not north or the central maybe. I don't think so.
No, and I've noticed that parents here still seem to value that. They seem to put their kids into music classes and theater or dance or different things like that pretty commonly mm-hmm. in Loja. Okay, very cool. Is there anything that I've left out that you'd like to touch on? I'd also like to give you a chance, of course, to say how people can get in touch with you. We'll put your contact info in the below as well for a tour. But is there any pertinent information or tips and advice that I haven't gotten to that you'd like to touch on before we wrap up?
No, I think we talk a lot, many different topics. Maybe also something important for me is that here there are not many street dogs. I don't know if it's a good topic, but I like to say that because I love animals. I love to protect the animals. So here always you will find people that they are trying to take the dogs for the streets, to take care of them, or to take them to places where they will take care of them until they find a family. So it's also important to know that here we really take care of the animals, and because most of people here really loves the nature, mm-hmm. and they will protect the animals. So I think it's a good topic, and like you told me, I can say that people who want to take my tours, my services, they can find me my Instagram account and Facebook account, which is Loja Tip Tours. You can find me there. And
Loja tip like TIP?
Yes.
Yeah, Loja Tip Tours, okay.
And you will find there the information about my services. You will find my email there when you can reach me, and everything there. So you're welcome to Loja if you want to come to visit, to know more about our deep history, I will be here to be your guide.
Kevin, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks to you, yes, it was a really pleasure to be here with you.
It was, for me as well. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Again, this is another episode of our Professional Spotlight series. Kevin Roden of Loja, Ecuador. Come join us anytime. We'd love to have you. Have a great day.